Welcome to the LB's The Lover of Books author chat. If this is your first time here live or watching a recording, I'm so glad you found us. I've had the honor to interview over 70 debut to best-selling authors, and readers like you have helped my YouTube channel grow. It's LB The Lover of Books, and we have amassed over, get this, y'all, 19,000 hours watched. So lots and lots of people loving these books and authors, and I'm so glad that you're here with us live. I appreciate you taking the time to like and comment. It really helps readers find this content. But now I want to introduce this very talented artist. Susan Lieu is a Vietnamese American author, activist, and performer whose stories wake audiences the F up. Her work explores intergenerational trauma, impossible beauty standards, dysfunctional families, and unresolved grief, which I'm sure we're going to be tackling all of those tonight. This is going to take you on a ride, and I'm sure it did, that had you laughing, crying, and somehow feeling hopeful. This book, get this, I'm going to go ahead and go through these accolades because they're really amazing. It was one of NPR's Books We Love of 2024. It was the audio book must listen pick of the month for Apple Books, best fiction book by 2024 for Elle Magazine, members most anticipated books of Goodreads for 2024. I love this one, 6 books of Lunar New Year for Los Angeles Times, and 22 books to energize your spring reading for San Fran. And I'm going to say this is also the perfect book to read in May for our Asian American Pacific Islanders month. So if people are looking for reads, this is the book you need to put in their hands. I wanted to say welcome, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us time while you're on your tour. So glad you're here.
Thanks for reaching out. I always love being with my readers.
Well, we are so happy you're here. I'm going to go ahead and just dive in because I've already shown Susan, like, she didn't get to read it, but she got to see notes. Like, y'all, I have so much to talk about, so I'm hopping in quickly. All right. This memoir was a long time coming. It felt like it was a huge process, but it wasn't your first attempt to process this. And so can you kind of describe a little bit how you went through it to get to the memoir and why you wanted to write the memoir?
Yeah, I mean, I was in my early 30s and I got married. I got a lot of pressure from my dad and aunts to have kids. And I had two competing narratives here. One was like, how do I become a mom if I never knew my mother, right? She died from a botched tummy tuck when I was 11 years old, and my family had never talked about her again. And then on the other vein is just like, I don't know if anyone has ever experienced this, but I just kind of became disappointed with the adult I became. I was like, this is life. And I was a failed stand-up comic. Like I had done stand-up comedy, I got heckled, and then I just stopped altogether. And I said, how can I tell my kid be what you want in life if I didn't myself? So it kind of all comes to a head. And I'm sitting here going like, I can't move forward in my life until I address the past. And the thing is my family would never talk about our mom. It had been 2 decades, and I said, okay, if you're not going to tell me, I'm going to find other answers. So I tracked down her killer's family. I read thousands of pages of depositions. I enlisted the help of spirit channelers. And every time I learned something new, I put it on stage in a one-woman show. And the 5th iteration, called 140 Pounds, How Beauty Killed My Mother, I play 15 characters in 65 minutes. Tells you this narrative arc of how do we deal with intergenerational trauma?
Right.
How do we love and feel close to our families when they can't give us what we need? And so I was able to process that, take it on a 10-city national tour. Then in my second trimester, because after I did the world premiere, I was like, you know what? I'm not a coward anymore. I like who I've become. I love myself, and I'm ready to pull out my IUD. And so I did, and I got immediately pregnant. And then I was like, well, I guess, and I was dragging my feet. I was dragging my feet about the national tour. I was like, what if I lose money? What if no one shows up? And then I was like, when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, well, everyone says second trimester is the best time. And it's for the procrastinator in me, it gave me these guardrails of when to do it and to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And sitting at the first city in New York City at that premiere was my future literary agent.
Shut up. Right there.
Right there. I mean, thank goodness I didn't know. If I knew, I think I would have like gotten kind of nervous. But I remember she reached out to me in the following January when I was doing the sequel over 140 pounds, because now I'm 8.5 months pregnant
Yeah.
and I'm doing the sequel, and she emails me and she's like, "Hi, do you want representation?" I'm like, "Is this a scam?" I didn't even know, but I was like, no one else is knocking down my door. Why don't I just sign it and see what happens? My kid is born March 2020. Great time.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Because
some timing.
because part of me was like, I wanted to have a lot of momentum with my arts career before I had the baby. Little did I know that the theater community would be obliterated, right?
Right.
And spent all of 2020 working on the book proposal. We sold it in 2021 to Macmillan Celadon, and my editor was the editor of Pachinko. Yeah, I got handed the gold, and she was the president and founder of our imprint. And she was like, "All right, let's write the," and I was like, "Okay, great. Like, are we gonna like look at my chapter outline and brainstorm?" And she's like, "No, you're just gonna go write the book." And I was like, "Just go write the book?" She's like, "Yeah, just that's what you're gonna do. Go
Not a
watch the
group
show
project, huh?
and write the book." And I'm sitting there going like, "But Deb, I don't know how to write." Like, and it was kind of crazy because like I didn't know how to do theater. I don't have an MFA. I have an MBA. And I just started trying the theater and I did it. And then with the writing, I did eventually write the memoir in 2 years.
Mhm.
And then I did it.
That's amazing. First of all, like I can't even imagine you like looking back now, like taking a look back and that's my life. I will say your son's timing's quite like yours. I mean, that comedic timing just, March 2020, he just had to give it to you right then. But okay, so got your agent, you're sitting down to write, and you're thinking, what the hell do I do next?
Oh,
So
yeah.
how did you approach this? And did you reach out to some other authors or somebody, or did you just like go for it?
Well, I mean, Deb just said, go for it. So I was like writing. I'm like, she's just write about your family. I'm like, okay. I just started writing. I gave her some pages and she's like, this is schizophrenic, Susan. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do now? Right. And my agent and I kind of knew I had gotten 4 offers, and it's like when you have a a an editor that is not new in their career, like very like a big dog,
They're seasoned. Yeah, they're
they
seasoned.
they won't have time to hold your hand, and I knew that. I knew that going into it, and so about 4 months into writing, that my agent and I talked, and I was like, "Okay, I'm screwed." Like, I got my first, like, m so an advance works where you get it in 4 payments, and the first one's upon signing, the second one is when they green light to go into editing, when the hardcover publishes, and then when the paperback publishes. So I just got some money, and, hey, thank God. And, so I'm sitting here, I'm going like, "Okay, I have no idea how I'm gonna do this." And I wanted to publish the book when I was 38 years old because that's when my mom died, and I felt like that was really significant, like that would be an homage. And I know it was my rule to me, but I just felt like that I just wanted to just show like this parallel, my own personal parallel for me.
Mhm.
And so I was like, "Okay, we gotta press the gas here." And then so there are things in the industry called book doctors. They're not ghostwriters. They don't like write it for you. They are people who are in the industry who used to edit and now they're just freelancing. They get to edit with you. They're basically like therapists who edit really well. And so I would get on calls with her and be like, "Oh my God, Alexis, I didn't write my pages, but look at this. It's terrible." And then she would read it and then she would highlight a couple of lines and was like, "Wow, this is really interesting. Can you tell me more?" Right? And she gave me a lot of emotional support and time to build confidence to become a writer. And and also really to explore. Because remember, I only had about 7 memories of my mom.
Right.
Now I had to create a whole world. And you can't hide with 300 single space pages. You know what I mean? Like you cannot hide. And so she helped me feel comfortable to explore the world. And, because it's still something I wasn't allowed to do, right? This is the one thing my family was like, "Don't do," which is talk about the past. So it was a very shameful process during the whole time, and eventually, I remember about a year in, Alexis was like, "I'm not taking your money anymore, you know how to write." I'm like, "No, I don't." She's like, I'm not taking your money." And I was like, "No, Alexis." And so she left, and then she said she would come back when I had better pages, right? Like when I had like like a really solid manuscript. But she's like, you know what you're doing now.
Right.
Because in the beginning it was a whole bunch of post-it notes, and I didn't know the structure. I didn't know if we were gonna go young Susan to now Susan. Like structurally, what was it gonna look like? I didn't know which memories were important, which ones were not. Um, and then I hit a big wall. I hit a big
Okay.
wall. I was like, man, I'm not gonna hit the deadline. And then I was like hemming and hawing. I had writer's block, and I said, okay, what do I always do? What do I always do to actually make something happen? And it's to put on a show. So I decided, you know what? That makes sense. I'm just gonna rent out my home theater, and I'm gonna have a 4-day performance and read the entire book out loud. And my journalist friends are like, "Are you insane? Like, it's not done yet." And I was like, "You guys," I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna like progress." And then I remember like a few days beforehand, my writing coach was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I said, "Well, you know what? There's two problem chapters. There's two problem chapters that my editor was like, I don't get it. The cult and the bird." And she
Okay.
was like, "I don't understand why you have this in the book. We might have to cut it." And I was like, at first I was like, "No, I have to do this. I have to establish Susan as someone who's a flawed character herself."
Yeah.
Right? Because I am. But it's not fair to my family if I just present myself as earnest and them as separate and distant, right?
Mhm.
And so I was like, "How am I gonna do this?" So I brought those. I would always read the first chapter because it was like better. It was more polished, and I would make myself feel better. And then I would read a new chapter. And so then I read The Cult. And as a performer, when I'm reading to people, all of a sudden it becomes really clear to me. Because I was doing it on Twitch too. So fans from across the country and the world could comment, which was it's good for me. I'm an extrovert. I need that feedback. But then I'm live performing and there's people sitting right in front of me, and then all of a sudden it becomes clear. So within 48 hours from each of those chapters, I came back, cleaned it up, restructured the whole thing, and it's actually a very close version to what you see in the book today.
Wow. Like, almost feel like you could teach this model for different types of learners, right? I mean, I've never experienced this or heard of this. Like, I love it though, because it's like you tapped into yourself and you knew what could make you progress and get you past it. And you're like, F all y'all, I can try this, and it obviously worked.
I mean, I was very desperate. I was very desperate to make it work. I mean, because sometimes looking at a blinking cursor at night, nothing happens.
Yeah. And the 38, the deadline.
Yeah, I published on March 12th and my birthday is on April 16th. So I was 1 month to the wire, which is my natural style.
I was about to say that's a major win for a procrastinator. I will just say a month early, like it could have been the day of. Like, let's just be real. But I find this fascinating. So your shows, when you did it, were they you did the whole, you just did portions of the chapters for each show, or did you do the whole thing for this test?
Um, well, originally I, I think Andy Kaufman's really cool. And originally I was not going to be a one-woman show performer about my family's tragedy. I was just going to be an absurdist comedian, okay? And there was this one thing where he read an entire book as a performance, and it was awful because people were like, "Are you seriously going to read an entire book?" And then everyone, like, people are like leaving the show because it's taking so long. And so my original plan was to read the whole book, like from start to finish over the 4 days, because I was like, I think I could do it.
Mhm.
Um, but then eventually it just turned into first chapter and any problem chapters.
Okay.
And then I would iterate. And so I was always like apologizing. I was like, if you're here for the third show, it's gonna be like the first one, except a little bit different because I've like crammed and like done homework in between, like every 24 hours. So I didn't end up reading everything because at that point, maybe 2/3 of the book felt more done, but 1/3 still like was like deformed, where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. And so I always liken um writing a book to like you're like, Susan, are you okay? And you like knock like gently onto a door, and then it, like, swings open, and, like, I'm, like, in a sausage factory, and there's, like, some sausage smeared on my and there's, like, blood everywhere, and, like, there's, like, my got my gloves, and I'm like, "I'm fine. Do you need anything? Bye." Like, that's what writing a book is like. It's, like, disgusting and messy. Like, it's so messy.
But you're so willing to share the mess with everyone, which is amazing. So many authors are like, no, you can't see this till I feel like it's perfect. But then yet you do talk about having, imposter syndrome and, perfectionism as well. So how does that all work out with this sort of model?
Um, I'm motivated by money because I was now pivoted into becoming an artist full time, so I was like, if I don't get the green light from the editor, I've, like, run out of money.
Mhm.
Like, because the money was just dripping away as I was just trying to, like, crank this out as fast as possible. So I was terrified. I was terrified because I was like, "How am I gonna make this work?" Um, I I don't know, there was just, like, a part of me that was like, "It's time," like, this is I felt so much fulfillment of doing the show with folks. I had, within a year, performed it 60 times to 7,000 people, and every night, it was so cathartic for me and for the audience that I was like, "Susan, like, you could do this for more people, and you could do it while you're sleeping, right? Like, they can read the audio they can listen to the audiobook, they can read it, and you now as a mom of a young toddler can make money."
Right.
That's the dream, and I was like, "Okay," like, I was motivated by that too, right? Of, like, how do I sustain myself? How do I still do the work of intergenerational healing, in a way that is actually gonna work for my life now that I do have a young kiddo? Um, and also this is my work,
Yeah.
like, what else am I doing? But, I gotta say that 38-year-old time, like that stake in the ground of, like, homage to my mom. Either you're doing it or you're not. I'm like, "Ah!" And it stressed me out to the point where, if you read in the prologue, I go to the ER twice.
Yeah. But Alexis did give you those bumpers on your bowling alley as a little bit of support there, and she knew when to remove them. Did you bring her back into the process at
Oh,
some
yeah.
point?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, near the end when I was like, "Okay," I was at Vashon Island, and I was like, "Okay, I think this is it. I think this is it." Because she would be like, "Susan, I'm going on Christmas vacation. If you don't give it by this date, I'm out," and I'm like, "That's like a real deadline to me, right?" Like, that's not a fake one. I know she's actually gonna be gone. She actually has boundaries, like, she's wise, I'm like, "Oh," and then I, like, haul ass to, like, make it happen. So she came in later as, like, an editor. I call her my Wolverine editor, like, her, like, claws come out while she's, like,
Mhm.
as a cappuccino, and then she's just, like, and she cleans it up. She cuts it so that it's more condensed. And sometimes she'll be like, "Consider cutting this paragraph," or like, "Cool, double click here, give us a little bit more detail," or I think I have a lot of thoughts, and she would cut and sharpen it so that the words that did stay on the page really had more of a punch.
Well, that's what I did find in this novel was that every single bit of it mattered and it seemed like it was there for a purpose. And so when you said earlier you didn't know how you were going to organize it, was it going to go from young Susan? How did that? I mean, because there's so much, like the memory happens and then you're back. And I mean, but it flowed so beautifully. Tell us.
Oh my
Chapter
god.
one.
I'm glad that was your experience. It was a mess. It was a mess. I have this big whiteboard, and I had Post-it notes of different stories, and I just move them around. Chronologically didn't feel right because how does memory happen
Not like that. Yeah.
if people withheld them from me?
Yeah.
And then I can't give it to you because in a way it should be more gratifying for you to be with Susan to find these answers, right? Because that was it, like, the whole, like, refugee journey, bloody feet. It couldn't actually just start with that
Mm-mm.
because we actually had to earn it, right? Because I actually didn't know it until I went on this big quest. So, anyways, I'm very confused, and maybe it's like maybe 6 months before I hand it into the editor for the final time when she says it's greenlit. So I'm sitting here, I'm like talking to my agent. I'm like, Monica, I don't know what to do. And she was like, my agent, yeah. And she was like, hey, chapter one, six meanings of ma. What just putting this out there structurally, what if you thought about the six meanings of ma? Can you organize it that way? And I was like, that is clever. And so I was like, okay, bye. And then so then I write the six meanings of ma. I don't know what order they're gonna go in. And I'm like, let me just recategorize all the post-it notes. Okay. And then let me categorize. And so I wrote my entire book on Google, on a Google sheet, on Google Outline. Or I sectioned it by outline, so then I could start moving them around, and I would just sit there and, like, look and think, but then eventually it actually really did land, and so, I remember the first time I gave my big editor, the first set of pages, she was like, "Whoa, fantastic ending," like, with ending with my dad, and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah," and she's like, everything else we gotta really we gotta work through. I'm like, "Everything else?" I was like, what percentage?" And she was like, "We don't think in like, percentages with publishing." I was like, "Yeah, but if you did." She was like, 85%. I'm like, "Ah!"
She knew.
But so what that did was it's like an SAT problem, right? Because then I'm like, "Okay, so that must mean if dad is at the end, the meaning of horse goes at the end, cool. So we know we've filled that 6 slot. So then I have 5 slots, you know what I mean? And then I would, like, move things around to be like, "But then what does this," and so it was my agent's tip.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, it is kind of like when I was studying for to get into law school, like they have those logic puzzles. That's almost what it
Yeah.
seems
Yeah,
like.
George is taller than John. Sally doesn't like tomatoes.
Oh,
How old are you? You're like,
yeah. Don't forget about groceries. Like something, there's always something random. Okay, so it sounds like you had a very awesome support group around you where if like even if the pachinko editor wasn't there to serve the purpose of holding hand, they were obviously there for another real, you know what I mean? Like it seems like everybody sort of fit in the right spot for your puzzle.
yeah, I mean, the thing about Deb is she knows when it's ready. Like, she knows that. She's been doing it for decades, and then when I finally sent it to her after Vashon Island, she was like, she reads so fast. Like, I feel like it was like 2 days later. She goes, "By George, you did it." And I was like, "Who says by George?" And then I was like, "Okay, great. Give it back to me." And then I did one more editing round, and then that's when I sent it to my sister.
Okay. And so she had not really seen,
No,
okay.
no.
Not even, I mean, I know you've been having some conversations. So,
Yeah, like a couple detailed clarifications once in a while. I remember I had gone back to the Bay Area and I was like, "Oh, hey, Wendy, let's go to this one restaurant to eat," which is the fishball noodle soup restaurant. And we're eating. She goes, "Are you putting this in your book or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." Because I'm like kind of there to like feel the sticky table, to like look at the condiments, like I'm there to like just like smell it again, like see it again, and like really pick up the details so that you can bring there like every detail. The electric pink like hand soap, I want you there. And so I had
right.
to go back, right?
All
Um,
right. So it
but
goes
she,
off to your sister.
but she was super bitter and angry about it, and we got in a big fight that day. And I was like, I'm just gonna get out of the car. Like it was like that.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't even talk about my mom. We were just there for fishball noodle soup.
It's almost like she knew.
Oh, my sister knows everything.
Yeah.
She knows everything. I can't lie to her. Anyway, but she's also the bridge builder in the family. And she was the first one to come to one of my solo shows. And so I said, "Hey, you don't have editing rights. You don't have editing rights. But if you did, is there anything that bothers you? Or
Hypothetically
should I
speaking.
be aware of?"
Yeah.
But I send it to her, and she reads it in a few days, and then, I get it on iMessage. I see the 3 dots, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and she goes, "I read it." I was like, "What'd you think?" 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then she's like, "It read like a really long journal entry, but it was good." Oh my god, my stomach untightened, like, it had been ever since I had sent to her, like, I was my ass cheeks were, like, clenched, like, for days, like, I was just, like I was so scared that she would be like the whole thing would be, like, thrown out the window, "We're not gonna talk to you," like, a lot of memoirs become estranged from their families,
Right.
right? And I didn't want that to happen to me, But it was so great because she basically had a problem with 3 half sentences.
What?
Yeah, she was just
Okay.
like, yeah,
Details.
no, there's I can't tell you the details because that would blow my cover, but
Okay.
they didn't impact the plot. I kinda can zhuzh up each of these half sentences, and then she said 2 things. She goes, you know that story where you get hit with a bat and you're, like, bleeding?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "That happened to me, not you." And I was like, "Well, why do I have a, like, this, like, scar on my skull?" She's like, "You fell down the stairs." I was like, "Oh." And then she was like, Mom wasn't on the Bay Bridge when she walked off, she was on the I-80." And I was like, "But I always thought it was the Bay Bridge." I was like, "Why do we have all the thumping sounds?" She was like, "You're wrong." And, she's still 3 years older than me.
Right.
So I was like, "Okay." And that's where, like, creative control comes in, where I'm like, "You're probably right, it wasn't the Bay Bridge, but
But
my
your memory still
entire
holds,
life."
yeah, what you perceived it to be at the time.
And I believed it for decades to be that, and that was the lore in my brain, right?
Mhm.
I mean, yes, she did still get off, like, the side of the road on the freeway.
Yeah.
It wasn't and so I'm pretty sure my sister's right because she's older than me and, like, she has great memory, but that was it. That was it. And then so I said, "Okay, cool." And then so I zhuzhed it up, and then I sent it back to my editor, but I did not share it with my 2 brothers or my dad until it went to the printer.
Okay. And why did you make that decision?
Because they were my disciplinarians growing up, and I think if they really said something, I would have
Back
bent with that, yeah. And this is my story to tell, and I've asked them many times for clarification on things, like but, I at the end of the day, you need to remember my family still hasn't talked about this, so it's not like, like, they could very well say, like, "Don't do it," right? But I was like, "I'm in deep. This is what I need to do for me, and I think for the world."
and even though your sister hadn't seen it, you knew she was a bridge connector, and there was that,
She knows I think it's like with family, people find the very specific like certain details oddly offensive. Like it's not like the whole thing that's the white elephant in the room or not the white elephant, the elephant in the room. Sorry, white elephant game. It's not the actual thing that we don't talk about. It's the it didn't happen on a Wednesday, it was a Thursday, or like it was a chicken, it was turkey and you're like, that's what you're mad over? Like
I'll take it. I'll take it if that's what we
right. So I just didn't know what it was gonna be, but I just feel like my sister has a really good pulse on the family um and yeah, no one had any other notes.
All right. So follow through. You've now sent it to your 2 brothers and your father, and then what?
Um they're all so funny. My oldest brother Kang, who has come to the shows,
Right?
so Kang and Wendy have come to the post-show conversations of a number of my theater shows. So they can talk about me talking about my mom, right? But they can't talk about our mom. So he was more open to it. So I was like, "Hey King, I've invited you on stage for the San Francisco book talk. Are you gonna read it?" And he's like, "Susan, I don't read." I was like, "Okay, there's an audiobook." And he was like, "Yeah, but I'll read it for you." And I was like, "Okay." So he read it, he went on stage, we talked about it. It was cool. He like sponsored one of my after parties in our hometown. Great. Hang did not read it. No comment. He hasn't ever come to any of the shows. However, I did get secret intel that, my sister-in-law, so his wife, she read it. She would read him the Amazon reviews. She would cherry pick the good ones, and she would read it to him, and he's like, "Really? Huh." And, I don't know, there was like 100 reviews at the time. 100 reviews? Really? Wow. And then that was it. That was it. I have heard that when she went to my theater show, she brought back the program and left it on the counter, and in the morning it was gone.
She's pretty good. I'm
And
gonna say.
I was like, "Gina, where did they go?" And she goes, "He put them in his safe."
He's yeah. He's dealing with it how he can deal with it.
Yeah, it's still I think it's like it's still endearing for him.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's big steps from where, when you first approached on this. Like
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
I mean, big difference.
And then dad, so,
Yeah.
like, I had my publisher send him the package of stuff, but I was terrified because I had so much going on with the tour, and I was like, "I can't get bad news right now." Like, I can't it's gonna he is so emotionally connected to me that anything negative is gonna, like, throw me off, and I might be, like, not a good place because I have to now be public facing about this. I can't right now. However, I have this rule that on my birthday, people have to be nice to me on my birthday. So a month later, I call him on my birthday saying, "Hey," and he knows it's my birthday. And then I was like, "Hey, Ba, did you read the book?" "No, I don't read." I was like, "What is it with men in my family who don't read?" And I was like, "Okay, do you want the audiobook?" He was like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And that's where we're at.
Well, I will say that I know it's done some, had some effect on your family, but it's had major effect on lots of people outside of your family, which I think is so important that we are talking about this. And I really appreciate, I know, like you said, you went into this process thinking, I may be estranged, I may, like all these fears, they're fears for a reason, right? Because it could happen. So you're really awesome to have gone through this and to share it with all of us because you are so real and so raw. And I just appreciate all of it. All of it.
Laura Beth, like for you, what was resonating for you? Like what did you what moved you or what stuck with you?
Um, well, I would say the fact that you were so true to yourself, like you were so honest. I did not see you as a perfect character. And I think that's what drew me in more.
Oh,
I'm
good.
serious
I'm
because
glad.
like I could say, this is Susan. Like I don't know you, but like this felt like Susan to me. And all the reactions felt real. I did love the ma, like to me that immediately grabbed me immediately. So kudos to that decision. And then the part in the hospital room, I'm sorry, like I was like um it was a hard read, and I know it had to be even harder to write, but you were so open with emotion and your story, your life. I can't even imagine putting that out for everybody and for your family who do not want to talk about it. But you have your story. I mean, you have your mom now in a book that will live forever. And I just find it a phenomenal tribute. And like I sent you that article as soon as I saw it with that woman with plastic surgery, like you're ingrained in me now, right? Like, so, I said, oh my gosh, this just happened. Like Susan here. I think it brings awareness to so many different issues. So I will just say thank you. I mean, it was just so, so good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was it's been a really beautiful journey and I I uh I feel really proud of me as a mother, because I'm trying to do it different for my kid in terms of how we talk about bodies,
Yep.
how we talk about worthiness, how we allow or don't allow feelings. And last Tuesday was my Seattle paperback lunch event and my kid during Q&A someone was like, "How are you parenting differently?" or "How do you share your mom with your son?" And then my kid runs on stage and he sits on my lap and I let him like speak in the microphone a little bit. And then afterwards he insists on signing books. And I was like, "If you sell this on eBay, it'll be worth more, everybody." And like he's just like part of the hustle, and I'm like, "Good
Yeah.
job, Art." But I'm sitting here going like, I can like with total integrity be like, do what you want in life, Art. Cause I did.
Yeah. But I
I
do
did.
see, when you tell me that story, I also see little Susan in the nail shop running that, being a part of it, being part of that family, being part of that hustle. Like that's a family attribute that he just picked up naturally. So it's really a cool continuation. But I mean, I had this conversation with my mom as well. Like, yes, there are things that I'm doing differently. And, it's hard to even recognize that you need to make those changes, I think, sometimes because it can be so ingrained.
Yeah.
So good for you. Good for your son. I think it's fantastic that he's part of it and he's getting to see this.
And part of this too is like as being Asian, what did I grow up with in the media? I grew up that Asian women could be the best friend, the nerd, or the prostitute.
Yeah.
What other roles could you be? Like, can you be the star? And so I want him to see, like, look, Art, you're a person of color. You can be the star. Go,
Yeah.
you can be the star. Your story matters. I matter. See, the thing is also everyone matters. Every story matters. But
Right.
the thing is, as a marginalized person, do we have opportunities to share and to
Yeah.
be the star? And for a long time, I never believed I could do that, even though that's what I wanted. That's why I was dabbling in that stand-up comedy, right? And I shied away. And I was doing the math today, and it's been 12 years since I've been on stage to do stand-up comedy. And I'm looking at this, I just turned 40 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, Susan, you tell people live like you're mortal. You got to do it too, girl. And I was like, I got to go back.
Yeah.
I gotta go back to the scene of the crime. I gotta go back to one of my greatest fears and my greatest loves. So I'm still like trying to feed myself what I want. And I know when I'm terrified, that means something's at stake, which is actually good. I think
Hmm.
oftentimes we are walking around like we are immortal. Like we are going to live forever. So we can put off that dream or that decision or that conversation to later. But what if there is no later?
Right.
My mom died at 38, like for fun, I read New York Times obituaries, and I actually like reading people in their 40s and 50s because it reminds me it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor.
Yeah.
You don't know when your time's up.
Yep.
And so then it always inspires and encourages me to just what is it left in me that I must do that terrifies me? And I need to go do that. Right? There is a calling there. And the question is, why am I not answering that calling? Right?
Yeah.
'Cause I left the stage and for me to do solo performance, this one woman show thing, it was a safe way to do stand-up comedy for me because there are no hecklers who go to theater, right? Like, you know?
Right.
And so it was kind of this hybrid place that I got to hone and iterate and develop, but now I wanna go back to the thing that scares me the most, and
But
I'm
now you have all these tools in your tool belt of performance and writing and pacing and setting and all these things I think that are just going to make your show fantastic. So you end up in Greensboro, North Carolina for us to see a show. So,
oh my
like
god, yes.
I'm serious. Like I feel like when you talked about reading those problematic chapters, like that's how you process. And it's like go, like do it. I think it's going to be fantastic and I can't wait to see what material you bring. But I do want to talk to you about the audiobook because you
Yes.
did bring that up already.
Did you listen to it?
Yes, I did. And I will
Oh,
say
so that's the part the hospital part.
that's the hospital part.
I haven't re-listened to my audiobook yet.
Friend, yeah, I think it for me, hearing the catches in your voice, the pauses, like all that stuff is so in the moment. It just like it takes your breath away. And I appreciated that you did it. And I was gonna ask how hard, like, was it hard to get through that stuff? I mean, like I know some of it's jovial and you're having fun with your siblings or whatever it is, and you can hear that joy in your voice as well, because you're there, you're in that moment, but you're also in those moments that are really, really hard. So how did you, I mean, I know you're a performer, but how did you do it?
Yeah. Uh, it took a total of 5.5 recording days.
Okay.
So 5 days, and then I came out for some pickups. Because like beforehand, I asked the director guy, I was like, how do I do this? And actually I haven't listened to a lot of audiobooks, so I was like trying to cram like a day before, like I was like trying to listen to other people's audiobooks. And he was like, no, just be yourself. And I was like, okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah. And this is what I didn't realize. Day 1 of recording, that was basically the first third of the book. I forgot how emotional the first third is.
Mhm.
I was so wiped out. I was so wiped out. And I went home and I just like kind of like dragged my feet in the door. And my husband was like, "How'd it go?" I was like, "Fine." And like I just like slumped on the couch. I didn't move. It like took the wind out of me, and I didn't realize it was gonna do that. But I had so much time since the final edit to the recording time. And because we had recorded it January and then it published in April in that March. So it was like a 2-month window. So I was like emotionally shot. I was like, crap, this is so hard. And then also like what I didn't realize about audiobooks is so they like have all like a producer, like audio technician, make sure everything's cool. And it's like I have to be one distance away from the microphone and I have to stay there. So like I want to do this, but
Right.
I have to do it like this. And I can't move. They're like, your sleeves. And I was like, so it's like I have to get in character and especially Uncle Number Nine. You know what I mean?
I love that
You
part.
say you like to cook, but you never like, and like, but I have to like, so now I have to like do all the expressions and be him, but not actually move my distance. Do you get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So that was like on a technical level, that was hard because I'm like, I do want to get into it. I do want to perform, but like you have the audio is so sensitive.
That
Um,
awful part in the audiobook was one of my favorite moments. I will just say, like, and the fact that that even happened, like, blows my effing mind. Just to say, like, I kind of want to make the trip with you because I'm from Texas, so I feel like I'll just go down with you the next time. Um, but yeah, Carol, I wanted to say, Leslie said the scene that moved her the most was when you did your show and you saw your sister in the audience.
oh my God. And I lose my line. I lose my line. I'm like, crap. And then I'm like, you're sitting here registered. Don't ever look there ever again, because it
Yeah.
throws me out because remember she can like read my mind, so then I'm reading her mind, reading my mind, but then I have to like still say 10,000 words,
Yeah.
um yeah. And then also when my sister leans over to my brother and says at the end of the show, is that really true? Did you pull the plug on Ma? And the very fact of the matter is my family is learning about each other through my art
Yeah.
because we don't talk about it.
So do you consider your book now them talking about it in some ways, a different form, maybe?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like my sister and I have a chocolate company. It's called Socola Chocolatier, which I talked about in the book. And we have a storefront in the San Francisco airport in the United Terminal, like an E6, like an E6. And that's where it is. And
Oh, was that an ode to that song, like a Jesus?
correct, but I don't want you to go to G6. I want you to go to
I
E6.
caught it. I was picking up what
Yeah.
you're putting down. Yeah.
Okay.
I got
Yeah.
the jam.
Every time I like test it out, like half the people get it. But anyways, hopefully now it's seared in your brain. United Terminal. Um, as I was doing the work around my show, my sister still could not talk about our mother, but then she started to text to me about dreams she had about our mom. And like we could like really get into that
Mhm.
because it was like real. It was about someone important, but it was,
Separate.
it was like not real.
Yeah.
So she was sending me texts, which was new. That was very new. And then I I started to see that she was wanting to fold our Vietnamese heritage more into the chocolates and more Vietnamese inspired flavors. And when she started to do that, especially during COVID, our business started to transform and grow.
Yeah.
It was super exciting. But I think I think it's because it was the way she makes these chocolates are an homage to our mom, of like what she would like, right? And
Mhm.
it's directly honoring our Vietnamese heritage because growing up in America as a Vietnamese person, like I was called flat nose all my life, like I was embarrassed to be Vietnamese. It was embarrassing, right? Because I was in a largely all white community and I always like wish I looked like a Barbie doll and I can't change that about me, right? And now we're in an era where we can be unapologetically ourselves and that's actually our strength.
Yeah.
So I saw that with my sister and then with my brother, he had shared during one of the interviews that he now he created an altar for
Mhm.
my mother, our mother, and he put it up in the kitchen. And now when they do judo tournaments, they all the kids light incense, right? Like it's like a part of our lives. And I remember I was just there for both Thanksgiving and Lunar New Year. And I was hanging out with my siblings. And I was hanging out with them and there were my three siblings are in front of me. And then I catch my mom's picture on the altar, like right behind them. And it was all like perfectly like
Mhm.
lined up and we're all together,
Yeah.
you know?
She's like, about time y'all got this together so that I'm part of everything again, you know?
Yeah.
Um, okay, back to money. Why aren't
Money.
you doing audiobooks for other people?
I don't know. I mean, no one asked me. Yeah, it's not that much money.
It's not like,
I
well, it depends on how good you get and what the book is, right? I would think.
I mean, okay, well, actually, now let's I think okay, I think it was like $4,000. So it's 5 full studio days plus a half day. I mean, I guess when you look at it that way, it could be good money, but it was like super exhausting and also like I don't know. I mean, I'm now working on like writing a TV show screenplay, and people are like, "Why don't you be in writers' rooms for other people?" And I'm sitting there going, like, "Do I actually want to explore other people's topics? You know, like, am I going to be as passionate and committed?" Um, so I haven't really thought about it yet. I mean, I guess I could tell Macmillan Audio, like, "Hey, consider me for other books," but I guess I could see it as kind of a distraction because I there's still so much I want to create for me, right? Like I wanna do a 60-minute comedy special, at the end of the year. I mean, in like a small place in Northern California, but I want it filmed, and then I'm gonna put it on YouTube and be like, "Here's my audition, Netflix." You know, like,
Absolutely.
I'm just
Absolutely.
gonna try to do
And yeah, I mean, I say it's just keep that in your back pocket so that when you do have some time, why not? I mean, because you are so good, I will say I'm very judgmental about audiobooks. And so I will say that I feel like you could do justice for an author that doesn't have your voice, right? That doesn't feel comfortable being that narrator to say their story. I do feel like you could step in and be that voice for them. So, anyways, just a thought. Nothing, you
not
have to. I
well,
just
I didn't get any awards for the audiobook. So I was just kinda like, maybe nobody liked it.
no, I just think it didn't get enough buzz at the time. Like, I do feel like this is one when I tell people, I'm like, listen to the audiobook. If you like, I mean, if you don't like audiobooks, obviously read it. But if you do, get that full experience. It's like Michelle Obama's like you just listen. Trevor Noah, you listen to Trevor Noah's like it's just yeah. Okay, we're almost. Oh my gosh, time's almost up. Oh my gosh, I haven't even asked.
You
Okay,
didn't even go through all 4 pages.
I know. We'll just do a 5-day series, and I'll correct my questions as we go along. Just keep coming on every night, okay, Susan? All right, team. Y'all get the chance to ask Susan a question while y'all are thinking of your questions. I'm gonna give you some rapid fire. Are you ready?
Go.
All right. East or West Coast?
West Coast.
Best place you do your writing?
At a residency.
Do you do your own nails or have them done?
Have them done.
Are you
It's
an early bird or a night owl?
depends.
Okay. Do you like writing or performing more?
Performing.
What's the food dish that makes you feel like you're at home?
Gantua, sour soup.
And the best Vietnamese restaurants that you've found, and where are they located?
Well, I mean, categorically, you're talking banh mi, you're talking pho, you're talking family style. Are you talking like high end, like modern take on it? Like,
You get to tell us what you want to, you get to decide.
yo, in
Yo,
terms of like high end Vietnamese food,
sure.
Remy.
Give me high end.
High. Well, I mean, because we could talk. I told you there's too many categories.
Okay.
But anyways, Remy, Ramie. It's in Seattle.
Okay.
High end, like very high end. And like she grew up in Vietnam, but she's like but also grew up in America
Yeah.
and her takes on it, but it's just like the textures, like it was just like it's like mind-blowingly Good. Like, but she's like, it's like a very, it's like nod to grandma, and then
Mhm.
also like Michelin like level energy here,
Your
like
next
I'm
book
very
launch or your next, yeah, that's where you need to have it. Like,
I'm very proud of her. She's doing a very good job. Her name's Jun. Her
awesome.
brother.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that. Does anybody have a question or do I get to keep asking y'all? If hands up if you want to ask, if not, y'all know I have so much. Um, all right. Carol, go for it. Let me highlight you real quick so we can see you and you can ask the question. Go for it.
Hi, Susan. You answered so many questions I had about your family. I'm always fascinated with siblings and relationships. And I also listened to the audiobook. I'm in the Bay Area and I'd be driving 101 South heading towards San Francisco, listening to the parts where you were heading to the city. And I was really into it. Couldn't wait for my commute every single day. The audiobook the emotion was so beautiful. And sometime you're going to have to listen to it. You were incredible. You really just were amazing. And I just had to let you know that. And I also am just curious, are any of the original salons still open in the North Bay? That
No.
that were no, okay.
Yeah, so Susan's Nails in Albany, turned to Lisa's Nails. They kept the S and the A from Susan. I was like, "Wow,
Okay.
that's pretty ghetto, that's good." And then but now it's like I drove by it the other day, and it's just like some, like, random, I don't know if an insurance broker kinda thing, like, it's not that anymore. And then Today's Nails in Santa Rosa is still Today's Nails, but it's a different owner.
That's what I was curious. I was Googling away. I'm like, should I go to today's nails?
You should have Today's Nails and take a picture with that book in front. And
Should.
true story, so I go in there and I'm like, "Hi, so I'm the other owner, like the old owner's daughter."
Yes.
And then they were like, I was like, "Can I take some pictures here?" Because I was trying to do promo for something. And then they were like kind of hemming and hawing about it. And then out of nowhere, spins a chair, and it's my neighbor from across the street growing up. And she's their customer, and she was like, explain to them the story. And then they're like, "Oh, okay. Peggy says it's okay. Okay." So anyways,
Should.
today's nails. But also I'm coming to the Bay Area next month or this month. San Francisco, Corte Madera, and Berkeley. So
I
find me
have
in
to.
LA.
I will. Oh, I can't wait. That's great. Thanks, Susan.
Yes, I just wanted to bring that up one more time. There is this paperback tour going. I think it's close right now is probably as close as she's going to get to me, but she may be getting closer to some of y'all. So look up her schedule. The other thing I really want to push for is her. She mentioned this. What's the title of your newsletter?
Oh, live like you're mortal.
Live like you're mortal. So definitely consider signing up. It's great content. I think you're all are going to love it. I'll put these links and stuff in our chats and on the Facebook page, so you'll have that. I do kind of want to know what's coming up for you because you've talked a little bit about a TV show, like you've been sprinkling, but we didn't really get much detail.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna write a screenplay for a TV show that is semi-autobiographical dramedy. Cool. I'm working on the 60-minute comedy show. So I contacted the old venue that I bombed at, and I was like, I just need a date and time, y'all. Once I get the date and time, I
Mhm.
actually do the work. Until then, I'm like, "Ah." And then also, okay, I didn't talk about this earlier. I turned 40 and I put on a reverse surprise party for my guests. So everyone thought it was a 90s R&B roast and toast, and then it was actually my funeral rehearsal. So there was like a hearse in front. I did a partnership with the local funeral home, and they came in. They were like, "I'm so sorry for your loss. Would you like to see Susan's body?" And then you walk in, and I'm in a casket, and then people would lean over, and then I'd offer them a weed gummy, and then people gave me eulogies. And then I was like, "Okay, live like you're mortal. Anyone else wanna give eulogies?" And everyone's like, "Ugh." And then I had, like, this, like, beatboxer who opens for Snoop Dogg come and finally do 90s R&B. Um, and I filmed it on 2 cameras, so I'm turning it into a short documentary film.
And did you get all their permissions to be on this show? They all agreed to this?
So I was, like, trying to print out all these waivers, and my husband's like, "This is too messy." So we had a sign that said, "By entering in this room, you're waiving your rights for me to use it for, like, external purposes." And I sent it to them in the messaging app for the party thing. So anyways, I
I
don't
knew what they
know.
were signing up for.
Yeah, so I mean, what's like, are they surprised?
Yeah.
Yes. So anyways, I don't know, like now I'm an aspiring filmmaker, but I just want people to laugh more in life, reflect, actually grieve more, like feel their feelings. Like when we heal, we feel, right? And I want to do that with humor. And I just felt like this birthday party was the birthday party I've always wanted, even though a year prior I told my siblings about it. And they're like, we're not coming if you're gonna do that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then so I wasn't planning on it. And then my sister came up with the R&B's roasted toast. She's like, "It rhymes." And I was like, "Yeah, I hate being roasted. I'm so sensitive." And then my girlfriend was like 6 weeks before, and she was like, "Why not? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I should do the party I want." Did you know that there is a secondhand market for used caskets, on Facebook Marketplace? I looked up caskets because I was like, I need to reduce costs for my party, right? And then it was like $300, one previous owner, buried for a few years, changed directions. And I'm like looking at the pictures. I was like, is this okay? My husband's like, stop it. Stop it. And I was like, he's like, you're not doing that. And I was like, yeah, that's bad, right? So then I like called up like 5 different funeral homes and walked in on a couple of them and told them my big idea. And they thought I was nuts.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. I mean, to me, it's environmentally friendly. I
Yeah.
mean,
But
no, to answer your question, I did not know there was a secondhand market
you know what I
for
mean?
caskets. Like what?
So I ended up, okay, just to calm everyone's nerves, I ended up renting it from the local theater, like the big theater production company. They had created one as a prop for a show. And so they pulled it out of the warehouse. I got the funeral home people to pick up in their hearse and like drive it over, and they gave me a deal on they were a community partner in all of this. They're like, we do want to do more community engagement. I was like, cool, you want to hang out at my party?
You'd be part of the show. Come on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you get any good intro like bits for your own obit?
For my own obituary.
Yeah. Like I feel like you're right, like you could write your own at this point.
Should write my own. You're right. I should put that in the living will. Yeah.
Mhm.
But anyways, I think this is actually all fertile material for my comedy show.
Good.
Life is art, art is life, you know?
That's exactly right. Well, it's going to happen. I'm so excited. I'm going to make it happen. This is where I can get to see you. I know at some point I'm just a huge fan. Um, Thank you. I've just had the best time tonight. It's just been fantastic. Like I said, I could have just kept on talking, just because you have so much good content. And I seriously could, I say this sometimes, I could write an English paper on this. Like yeah, it's so
Well,
good.
you know what? Students have written papers, and this book is now taught in 6 colleges and high schools in America, which I'm super stoked about.
I think that's excellent. I think people need to hear your story and your mom's story. Like it's about grief, all these things, but your mom lives right there in it, which I find phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much for a wonderful night of enlightening discussion. Susan, thanks so much for giving us permission to laugh. Thanks for giving us a wedding and a funeral all in one. Thank you for reminding us that the living won't always be here, so take the time to get to know them. All of us readers started this book as a stranger, but ended up a small part of your family. I will say that I believe you can do anything in heels, so safe travels and have fun and lots of laughter on your paperback tour. It
Thanks,
was
friends. Thank you.
fantastic. Yes. Like I said, please everybody sign up for her newsletter. Oh, coming up, almost forgot. Coming up, May 19th, we're going to Zoom with Carissa Chen about to discuss Homeseeking. This was the GMA Book Club pick, December book of the month, and recommended by pretty much every major newspaper across the US. It's an epic and intimate tale of a couple across 60 years as world events pull them together and apart, illuminating the Chinese diaspora. Oh, I can never say this word, diaspora, and exploring what it means to find home for even your homeland. This book is a tad longer, so make sure you give it the time it needs, and it's so worth it. Then June 1st, we're going to discuss with Charlotte McConaughey to discuss her newest, Wild Dark Shore, which is sure to be a hit for you. If you know of an author that you want to hear from, let me know. To stay up to date, check out my author chats, Facebook group, find me on my broadcast channel And also, if you want to watch any of those YouTube recordings, they're there on LB, the Lover of Books. Leave me a comment. Let me know what y'all think. And so thankful for all of y'all. Really appreciate you, Susan. When did you notice the USA in your name? Like, has that always been a thing? Like
No. I noticed it when I was writing.
Just when you were writing. Okay. I love that. I'm going to end on that. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And have a good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.